Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
And today with Zach.
Today we have a special episode where we're doing fight scene drafts.
All right, let's get into the show.
All right, today's a lot of firsts for the show. First, we have new microphones.
Yes. It sounds so lovely. We'll see after.
Yeah, we don't know if they sound better yet. We're testing them out.
Also, another first. It's Zach's first time on the show. He'll hopefully be a recurring guest for us. We'll introduce him.
Zachary Cook, the man, the myth, the legend. Boy. So, Zach has a movie encyclopedia brain. I feel like he can watch a movie and then say quotes from that movie a year later and only see it once. And I cannot do that.
He's a student of all the things that we talk about, of superheroes and all these TV shows and movies and stuff. He's constantly learning all this stuff.
And when he's not watching movies, he's watching YouTube videos about movies.
That is true. Including these ones.
YouTube owes him a debt of gratitude. He's built up their stock so much over the years.
Zach, we're excited to have you here. I remember at work, because we all three of us used to work together. I originally pitched this idea to do this with you included, all of the episodes.
Yeah.
But you're a busy man.
I'm a dad. I'm a student, and yes, I'm very busy.
So we're lucky that we were able to steal you away for at least one episode.
Zach, I want to give you a second to talk about what you're passionate about, because we talked in our first episode about how we like movies and TV shows. What are the kind of concepts, movies, TV shows, video games that are important to you, and kind of give you the credits to talk about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, so pretty much those three. Movies, comics, newly into comics, but mostly movies, TV shows, and video games. I've played video games my whole life, watched movies my whole life, and I've always been into superheroes. DC is really my favorite, but you can't really compete with Marvel in their movies. So I'm well versed in the MCU and most things DC, including video games.
Who's your
superhero?
Oh man, you stole my question.
I know I'm wearing a Superman t-shirt, but my absolute favorite superhero is Barry Allen, the Flash.
You're like a reverse Grant Gustin.
Yeah.
Today.
All right. Oh, that didn't sound good. All right, we're good. All right. So today we have a very fun episode. I was so excited last night that I just was like wrestling in bed thinking about it. Today we're doing a fight scene draft. So we're going to be drafting 5 fight scenes over different mediums. We are going to do 2 movie fight scenes, 2 TV show fight scenes, and then kind of our wild card on our team is we're going to pick 1 comic book fight scene.
Yes, so Arron is going to start us off with a randomizer that's going to pick our order for a snake draft. Now, the way a snake draft is going to work is that each of the 3 of us will randomly be placed in a 1, 2, 3 order. So there's benefits to each position you can be in the draft. It'll go 1, 2, 3. The third person will pick again. It'll go back to the second, then to the first, and so on. So there's benefits to being first. You get the very first pick to take something off the board, because you can only pick 1 fight scene 1 time. The second person will get to have a pick and then immediately go again before the first person after the third person goes. And the third person is going to get back-to-back picks. So each position has its merits, and the decision is going to be made for us. So we'll have to do the best with what we get.
Yeah, and then the person who goes first on the way back around, they also get that snake. So they get 2 picks on the way back too.
The second person's always in the middle, so.
Yeah. So there's, like you said, benefits to each position.
Hoping for third.
We wanted to do it, or I wanted to do it random, because I feel like it would be hard to pick who goes when. So I'm going to go ahead and hit random here. Oh, all right. So we got Arron, myself, going first. Zach going second, and Andrew going third.
Ask and you shall receive.
Which, man, I feel like that went exactly how Andrew wanted, which is not what I wanted.
Aaron also wanted to be first, so.
I don't mind being first, but I didn't want you to get what you wanted.
Oh, this is going to be a battle. I'm so excited to see what you guys pick and to like see how this plays out, because I'm going to get to talk about some of my favorite movie fight scenes today. But before we go into any of it, Aaron, do you want to explain the criteria and how we're going to decide who has the best team of 5 movies at the end?
Yeah, for sure. So again, it's the team that we're going to have the audience vote for the winner. So we're picking 5 teammates, right? So 5 fight scenes. Now these fight scenes can pretty much include anything, right? So it could be an all-out war, it could be a gunfight only, it could be hand-to-hand combat, it could be animated, it could be superheroes, live action, whatever, with weapons, without weapons, between animals, whatever you want to have on your team to have it be the best team. So for people voting, there's no real criteria of what makes a good team. It's kind of up to the audience to pick. But when we do our picks, we have to explain why that was a good pick and a valuable member to our team. And then at the very end, once we have our team of 5, all of us, we'll have like closing remarks of why we think our team is better than the other 2 teams and why we deserve to win the first draft on Backseat directing.
And we'll explain our criteria for what we think makes it the best, but you guys can just judge based off subjectively what you think has the best fight scenes. Just pick your favorite. It doesn't have to be by any particular criteria.
Yep.
Also, he said animal versus animal, which sounds oddly specific. I feel like he's telegraphing a move here. I'm not sure what it is yet.
And hopefully I didn't lay out too many of my cards. You better not steal it, boy. All right. Should we get going?
Yes, I'm excited.
Okay.
So Aaron's first.
Man. It's good to be first, but at the same time, I'm so indecisive. I was hoping that you guys would go first so I could kind of see where your direction of your team's going.
I was hoping for third, personally, too, but I'll take second.
Only one of us can be the best, baby.
All right, so my first one, I have this written as first because I think it was the highest one likely to be picked by one of you guys. I could be wrong, but I knew I really wanted this one on my team. And I hope to God that Andrew also wanted this on his team. I'm going to be upset if he didn't. But this fight scene is a oneer, which means that it's a unbroken clip. It's about 5 minutes long. It's dark. It's rough. It's tough. It's the Daredevil hallway scene, season 1, episode 2. Where he's going to fight the Russians to save that little girl. And what I liked about this scene was how realistic and brutal it was. Like, he wasn't just going in there and capping everyone, you know? He was going in there and getting beat up. But he just never gave up and he just kept going. So I felt like this was my heavy hitter on my team. And because we're all big fans of the Daredevil show, so I thought this might have been the one, because there's plenty of movies, right? There's plenty of good movies. I feel like there's not as many good show fights. They're a little more limited. So I think this is my heavy hitter that I'm going to have on my team. This is probably my captain, all right? So I was very happy that I was able to get this one.
Yeah, I mean, that fight scene's pretty bad. There's nothing really special about it. I've never enjoyed it. It wasn't on my list at all.
Man.
I mean, I hate you.
Was this on your list?
Yes, it was. That was my first pick.
Yes.
I had when I was planning to be third, I was really hoping you guys would both take movie picks, like top tier movie picks, and then I would swoop in and take my 2 TV show picks, and it was going to be that and another one.
Let's
go. That's like a knife to the heart. Sucks.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about the Daredevil show, and just in general, but especially like that scene, is like you see the hero taking damage. He doesn't, like you said, he doesn't just go in there, punch everybody, and it's over. You kind of feel like it's a real fight, and that could be his last fight. But because he's taking so much damage, but he ends up coming out on top. It's just brutal and realistic and so cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to hype up your fight scene, but I'm going to because I don't want to not talk about this fight scene.
We could probably just end this whole draft now and say that I won.
We could probably
Zach, thanks for coming on the show. Andrew, it's been a pleasure.
We could spend the next hour and a half just talking about this fight scene. But there's a great emotional aspect to the fight because that is my favorite episode of the whole series because it starts off where the first episode ends. So this is the second episode of the show. The first episode ends with him hearing a kid being kidnapped, and we know this kid's going to be sold into human trafficking because we know it's what the Russians are doing at this point in the show. And the second episode, he's trying to get information out of this guy. We see all these cool tactics that Daredevil uses, hearing heartbeats and everything. And he is on the warpath, throws this guy off the roof into the dumpster. And then when he comes down that hallway with a vengeance, and you know it's to save a little kid's life and stop him from being brought into human trafficking, the emotionality and he's been beaten down at that point earlier in the day, and he is just on his last breath, but fighting like battling Jack Murdock with everything that he's got. And you see this, when he's in that fight scene, the stunt actor just kind of has this sway, as if he could just fall to the floor at any given moment.
And then as soon as he's about to punch, he uses all the energy that he has left and just boom, boom, boom.
Or he's just swinging and somebody swings at him and he just
absorbs it.
Sways out of the way, dodges, takes a hit. The sound design in that scene is so visceral. He enters into the room at one point, the door closes behind him, and you're just hearing the hits and the fight, and it's just as impactful as if you were watching it.
Yeah, it had
so
I wanted to talk about how the scene was actually shot a little bit, but going with that, it had a good element of letting you use your imagination of what's happening, but then it also showed you enough of the action to where you're like, damn, this is badass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so I looked some stuff up. They did this, again, it's a 5-minute, basically unbroken scene. And they did it I did too. They did it 8 to 12 times. They had to go through this fight scene to get it right.
Shockingly low amount of times, honestly.
I don't know. I feel like this is a brutal scene to have to go through that many times. But it's really cool because it's choreography. It's like they're dancing. And the people that got hit and that are on the floor, they're not just there waiting to get a punch in. They're feeling the pain of the hits that Daredevil just attacked them with, or even when Daredevil's hit, he's not just anxiously waiting around. He's like, oh man, this hurts, unlike that Star Wars fight scene that we won't talk about.
These actors sell
delete.
They sell the pain.
I don't mean to smash your pick already, Zach, but
The Last Jedi right on the top of his list.
But yeah, the stunt double for Charlie Cox is Chris Brewster, and they basically, when he goes into the room, it's Charlie, and then when he comes out, it's Chris, and then they fight, and then it goes back in, comes back out of the room, and it's Charlie. And it's like a seamless transition between the stunt man and the actor, and they both did a great job of selling the scene, and I'm excited that this is on my team.
The emotional weight of at the end, he walks into the room at the end of the hallway, and he carries the kid out. It's there's the emotionality, there's the choreography, there's the sound design. It's amazing. Also,
Thank you.
I'm
proud too. I'm a proud parent.
I wish you didn't have it.
Suckers.
But he's also doing all these flips in a small, thin hallway, and they're navigating a camera back so they cross over him and the person he's fighting with.
It's amazing.
Back, all in this slim hallway. It's a feat. It's an achievement. It's really impressive.
All right, Zach, you are second on the list, which is a good spot to be in. You get the second best scene out there. What do you got?
Don't do what he did.
My pick, I don't know how you guys personally feel about this scene, but my first pick is going to be the Batman scene from Batman vs. Superman, the warehouse fight.
Saw that one coming.
I've seen everything Batman. So that scene is the main one that stands out to me as being a definitive, this is what I picture Batman being. There's so much, he's tactical and he's brutal at the same time. He enters the building from the Batwing, and he enters a floor below where 20 some odd guys are, and they're expecting him to come in through an elevator or maybe above, but he attacks him from below, blows the floor out, jumps up there, and there's even a quick, maybe 2-second part of that scene where one of the criminals is shooting in the hole that Batman's created in the floor, and Batman's in the rafters taking people out. So it just I think shows like the stealth aspect, like, or maybe not stealth, but disorienting them. Like they don't know where these attacks are
The
coming
ninja like aspect.
Yeah, it was a very Batman fight.
Yeah, where is he? You know, and then I'm of the mind that Batman shouldn't kill it, and I know that's one big thing of against Ben Affleck's Batman, but in this scene, it's just so brutal and cool. Like I mentioned a little bit ago about how you can see Daredevil taking damage when he's in that fight. This scene is just like that for Batman. There's a point where he gets stabbed and he just like yells out really like a war cry and continues to go and brutalize these criminals. So it's just so cool. I from time to time I'll just pull it up and watch it just because it's so cool.
That's how you know that it's a good fight scene, is if you watch it outside of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. I can't get enough of it, man.
That one hit that they like when he hits him, it just like flips over.
Oh, dude, he just folds the guy.
Yeah, and just like.
Yeah.
There's you might agree with this, but that scene to me is the closest thing in live action we have to the Batman fights in the video games, where he can literally just pick somebody up with one hand, slam them into the ground, and just like this brutal force of this machine that's super quick and deadly and powerful, and it's so cool.
At one point,
It's a good pick.
I love too the use of like his bat gadgets. You know, he's not just punching these guys. He starts the fight with disabling all their guns with one of his gadgets, and there's a part in there too where he pulls his grapple gun out and shoots a guy through the shoulder and grapples him to him and punches him clean out of the air. And it's just like, oh my god, that was so
let's go.
insane.
Doesn't he also grapple like a giant crate and launch it into some guys?
Yeah, he kills that guy. But he's using his tools, he's using his fist, he's using his experience. There's a part too, more towards the end, where they're not exactly getting the upper hand on him, but he's been fighting for a minute, and a guy comes up behind him and shoots him in the back of the head. And you look at Ben Affleck's batsuit, which in my opinion is hands down the best batsuit that's ever been on TV, or I'm sorry, on screen. And it doesn't exactly look like it would be armored like that, but he takes the bullet to the back of the head because his suit is, you know, this Batman's been Batman for a long time. So he is equipped to take a gunshot to the back of the head and keep fighting. Like it almost doesn't faze him. He lets out a grunt, but then he disables the guy. So
anybody who knows you, I think, has a good firm idea that this would have been your first pick. And I was torn up inside about trying to steal it from you. So I'm glad you went before me, so that decision's off the table. I don't have to be indecisive. I think Aaron and I both knew that this was probably going to be your first pick, and it's a very strong first pick.
It definitely doesn't surprise me. I wish that I would have watched it when I was doing research.
yeah.
That way I knew your scene a little better.
We'll watch it soon.
But I have a counter of why yours is not a good pick.
Oh, let's hear it.
Or at least why it would not be as good as my team will be. But I'll do that at the end. Because it's a good scene, and I want you to be happy right now.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll destroy you a little later in the episode. So now we're moving on to Andrew. I have the Daredevil hallway scene, season 1. Zach has Batman vs Superman, where Batman's fighting in the warehouse. Andrew, you get 2 picks. What's your first one?
All right. So in doing this, I have gone over and decided some criteria to what me personally makes a great fight scene. And I came up with 4 characteristics. Stakes, emotionality, choreography, and creativity. So I think that those are important to giving weight to a scene, to making it special. The creativity has to do with the scene's originality. So I am going to try to take some things off the table that hurt you guys, hopefully as bad as you hurt me. I don't know if anything's going to hurt as bad as Aaron taking Daredevil.
I'm a little nervous because I didn't think Zach was gonna steal one of mine because I didn't have that on my list.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of knew that he was gonna take that. But Andrew, I feel like we might have some similar ones here. And you were saying that you wanted TV shows first, and I like my TV show pick, so I'm a little nervous.
All right, I'm going to go off the reservation a little bit. I have to completely call an audible on my order because the Daredevil fight scene's gone. But this fight scene is iconic. I think you guys both love it. The stakes are kind of the stakes of 6 movies in a way. They're the stakes of an entire universe, or I could say a galaxy. The emotionality is a fight between 2 essentially brothers who love each other and have this deep bond of fighting and training together. And it has this amazing, creative, original backdrop on this lava planet. If you don't know by now, I'm picking Anakin versus Obi-Wan Kenobi on the planet Mustafar in the movie Revenge of the Sith. We're talking about a fight.
That was such a good
That was on my list. I didn't think
yes.
you would take it. I was like, man, no one's gonna pick a Star Wars one. This is mine.
This, I think everyone can universally agree, this is the best lightsaber battle that we've gotten
Absolutely.
on screen. The choreography is amazing, and we're talking about all the things that I mentioned that make a great movie. I mean, we're talking about 6 movies essentially building up to this. I know that the original trilogy came out before, but this is us.
But it built anticipation
Yeah,
for this moment of like, how did Darth Vader become Darth Vader?
Exactly. We're waiting in the prequels because of the original trilogy to see this ultimate battle between these 2, like I said, brothers who love each other. They've known each other since Anakin was a little kid, and they have this deep bond. So we've got the emotionality. We've got these deep, emotional, iconic lines of, you were like a brother to me, Anakin. You were supposed to defeat the darkness, not join them. Like, this is the culmination of Anakin's character development and journey over all 3 of these movies. The lightsabers look amazing. I believe at this point in the prequels is where they added using light on the lightsabers practically so that it would shine against the actors' faces.
I'm not sure. I know they did that for the newest 3. I don't know if they did it for that one. They might have.
But this is just, it's a top tier fight scene.
So
I mean, the way
I'm
they jump.
I'm gonna try to help you out a little bit here.
Go ahead.
Not that you need it, but I feel like a lot of people criticize the lightsaber battles in the prequels because they're just kind of flailing their swords around. It's an art, okay? It's an art. It's meant to be like that. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
Let them do it, all right?
If you see a martial arts showcase with black belts, you know, they are doing a performative
elegant, yeah.
aspect of
and they have rules that they're fighting by, in a sense, you know? It's a great pick.
Yeah.
I had this on my list, but I had it a little lower because I didn't think anyone would take it. Man.
It is incredible. Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite Star Wars character, and
He's great.
in that movie, and especially that scene. I'm a big fan of, and some people criticize this in characters, but I'm a big fan of the good guy that's good for the sake of good. I'm talking about like a Superman. I'm talking about a Captain America, and I think in Star Wars that's Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
that chills kind of what you said.
yeah, it's just, I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that fight scene really is. It's such a hard position for him, you know, because he's, like you said, he loves Anakin, but no matter how much he loves him, he can't allow him to get away with the things he's done and go down that path.
Yeah.
But he also can't kill him straight up either.
Yeah.
Because he's his brother.
Yeah, he leaves him there to die.
Which in hindsight was a big mistake. But,
For sure.
But
That was a good pick, Andrew.
yeah.
That was good.
I love this fight scene. I mean, we get to see a lot of
I watched it last night.
get to see a lot of like force jumping, and we get to see creative movement and action. They're gliding on these little robotic things across
They're
lava.
moving from place to place,
Yeah.
which makes it pretty dynamic.
Yeah, it has a special location, I think, that makes it unique as well. The choreography is very fast paced. It's a top pick for sure. but
All right, so
I have to make another pick.
yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about being first here.
So
4 picks go away before I get to pick again.
For fairness to you guys, I've excluded anime from my movies and TV show picks because I didn't want to completely demolish you guys.
I think it would have helped us if you picked anime because I feel like a lot of people don't watch anime, so they would have liked our list better.
Some of the best fights ever, I will say.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I think a lot more people like anime than you think. So, also, because I want you guys to know these scenes, so you can know the pain of me taking them away from you guys in the draft. and
Fair enough.
So it can hurt you guys. My second pick is going to be from a TV show. It is going to be the culmination of 3 seasons of character development and 3 seasons of build-up for a villain. And rarely do you have a show where there's 3 seasons where the main protagonist and the main antagonist don't meet on screen the whole time.
You son of a gun.
But at this point in the show, the end of season 3, the final episodes, we're seeing our hero and villain meet on screen for the first time. And somehow it's even more impactful than if they had been brothers the whole time. We're seeing Anng fight Fire Lord Ozai. This fight scene is Anng finally mastering all of the elements, finally being able to stand up to this evil, vile threat that is trying to conquer the whole world. Talk about stakes. The fate of all the nations in the world are at stake as Ozai is going to use Sozin's Comet to make his final push to fully conquer the entire known world. And Anng steps up to him as the dissenting voice, the shining light in the darkness, and he fights with vigor. And what I love about this fight scene is that we get to see Anng take a moral stance.
Man, what a good pick.
Kind of like Zach said, like I've touched on in a previous episode, I like moral characters. I love Batman for that reason because he takes a hard stance on his no-killing rule so many times when the whole world is stacked against him and wants him to
Besides in the one scene that Zach picked.
Don't worry about that.
Where he breaks his moral code.
When the whole world's against him, he stamps his foot down, plants himself like a tree, and he says no. And that is what Anng does in this scene. He has everybody that we've seen in the show telling him that he has to kill Firelord Ozai. Even Firelord Ozai's son, Zuko, is telling him that it has to be final. And Anng goes through all of his past avatars he can talk to. But we see at the end of this fight, Anng just says, "That's not who I am." And he takes Firelord Ozai's bending away. So many epic moments in this fight. He decides that he's going to overpower him and take his bending away instead of killing him and sacrificing his moral code. He can keep himself pure, and he can still represent hope and peace and pacifism in the way that is true to his core identity, but still win this fight. And he forces the world to bend to him instead of bending to the world. And it is beautifully animated. The choreography is awesome. Anng uses all 4 elements in harmony, blending them all together. And when you think he's down and out at the very bottom, when you think he's done, when you think he's buried in rocks and covered in fire, he bursts his hands out and grabs that man by his little goatee, by his little chin strap, and he pulls him out and goes into the avatar state again and just deflects his hand. And there's so many beautiful moments of animation in the choreography.
We also saw Aang absorb and redirect lightning.
And in that moment, he chooses not to direct it back at Ozai.
He got so much power up from that. He looked at him and then moved it away, and shot it up into the sky because he knew it would probably do some damage.
So I think my picks are iconic because they are the culmination of years of filmmaking or TV show animating, and the emotionality is just so strong in both of these. Plus, like, the emotional content in terms of the voice acting. I mean, Mark Hamill as Lord Ozai, beautiful. And him just calling Aang weak and yelling at him and hounding him. And he's chasing him through this awesome set we have of these rock mountains. He's chasing him, and wants nothing more than to finally kill the avatar that's been a thorn in his side and like a little pest bothering him. But he can't do it. I mean, we've seen Aang develop so much as a character. His friendships, his relationships have built all to this moment, and his finally overcoming his relationship with Zuko and then becoming friends so he can master firebending ultimately builds to this moment. And the irony of the Fire Lord's son, who he shunned, training the Avatar to defeat him is just so sweet.
Yeah, Avatar's a top tier show. I haven't seen it in a while, but I've watched it all before. But one thing I kind of don't really always remember is like that the airbenders are originally monks. So yeah, it's neat that he took his background and found a way to not kill the Fire Lord. He found a different way to where he could still stay true to his long lost people.
His culture, yeah.
Unlike your Batman.
Yeah, Batman. Well, look, it's a different interpretation of Batman,
All right, solid picks. Just to kind of recap, Andrew got Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, the Duel of Mustafar, and then he also got the Battle of Aang versus the Fire Lord in the last season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Zach, you already have Batman in the warehouse scene. Yeah. What's your next pick?
So my next pick is going to be another DC movie. This fight scene, in my opinion, is groundbreaking. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, man, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. And that's going to be Man of Steel, Superman versus Zod in the city. That fight scene is just incredible. Just the way they hit each other. And you can see the impact, breaking windows, damaging buildings. And the way they do the flying punch, and he flies and he punches him again, and he's way off, and he flies and punches him again. Like, it's just incredible. I really love Henry Cavill's Superman, and
who doesn't?
Right, yeah, Warner Brothers. Yeah,
I love Henry Cavill, not just as Superman. I love him in general. He's
a stud.
Amazing.
He's a stud.
That whole scene is just so cool. Like that. Up until that point, there had obviously been Superman movies, but that was like really, really getting to see Superman's power.
Yeah, nothing on that level.
Yeah, I know they did a Dragon Ball Z movie years ago that was like terrible, but if they did a live action Dragon Ball Z movie with those kind of like when it hit that impact, I think it would be a very expensive movie. Like,
they made it look. They made it look believable.
Yeah.
When he went to take a punch or jump or move really fast, like it looked like he was loading and then exploding, and didn't just was standing upright and then just boom, disappeared. It looked like he had to apply force and move. And that's a good scene.
I'm still stuck on you insulting Dragon Ball Z Evolution. I mean, that was a masterwork.
Yeah.
It has a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes for a reason.
That movie is bad. But another thing I was going to say too about this Superman fight is, this is like Superman's kind of origin movie for this continuity, and we don't really see Superman have another fight besides the Smallville fight. So this is really Superman's second fight, and this is his first fight with somebody who is like one of his rogues. In Smallville, he's fighting soldiers, of Zod, but in the city, he's fighting Zod, which is his first real high stakes fight. If he loses that fight, they take over the planet. They terraform Earth.
Yeah. And in Zod's words, calls himself a person who was born and bred to be a soldier. So he's fighting somebody who is, a powerful opponent. And
he's just and Superman's just powerful. He doesn't have training. He's just figuring himself out. He's just kind of embracing the Superman role. He has been Superman for like a day. They get there, invade the planet, and that's really when he becomes Superman. That's what makes him step up to the plate. Other than that, he had been doing things like heroic things. but this was his first saving the planet, you know.
Yeah.
And one crazy thing too that you know you don't really see is Superman kills Zod at the end of the fight, which is crazy because Superman is the Boy Scout. You know, he doesn't kill people, but in that moment, I think Zack Snyder did a great job of making the circumstances come about that Superman had to make that decision. He already had fought Zod and caused all this damage, and then now he's looking at this family about to get lasered, and Zod is so set in his ways of ruling that he's not going to stop. And Superman realizes that and makes a decision to snap Zod's neck, which is a very intense thing for Superman to do. He's not one... You see Superman kill in alternate timelines, or alternate universes like Injustice, or, you know, like Red Sun. You don't see the main Superman murdering people, you know, and he had to take this guy off the border. He was going to continue to kill these innocent people. So, yeah, I think it was a great way to start off the continuity of DC movies we're in right now.
Yeah, I think
too bad they couldn't capitalize on that though.
I know, what a shame. It's an absolute shame. We'll see. There's a lot of whispers going around, you know, on the internet, but I think it's a huge mistake not having him be Superman.
Yeah. But one thing that's a huge factor in choosing my fights is the environment, because I think the environment should excite the fight, and I think the environment should also be destructible. Like, this is a great fight for that. I mean, I chose my fights based off that too. When their fight alters the environment. Daredevil is a good fight. I mean, they break doors and they're throwing stuff. This fight is kind of the strongest one for that so far, at that aspect in my opinion, because they're just obliterating Metropolis with this fight, and they shoot it really well with some big wide shots where you can see how much damage they're doing to like buildings and the surrounding environment.
It's like they're made of sticks. The buildings are just nothing to these guys, and I've never seen a movie up until that point that pulled off really relaying the power of the hero that's fighting. Superman and Zod both are just so powerful that buildings and this whole city basically is cardboard to them. They destroy it off of one fight, you know. It's just crazy. It's so visually exciting. There's a Lex Luthor Easter egg during the fight. There's a Bruce Wayne Easter egg during the fight. They work those nice little details in and kind of world build all and effortlessly, you know, and it's just like, oh wow, that's slick. But then bam, right back to the action of just these Superman punches that are just incredible.
They do a good job of making you in touch with what it would feel like to be a citizen in the city getting destroyed. It's like being in a natural disaster. Like, they show a lot of shots of the citizens and from their perspective in buildings or on the street, and what it would feel like for the city to just be crashing down around you, and then they follow that into Batman vs Superman too. So yeah. It's pretty cool fight. It's a good pick.
All right, so both you guys, Andrew and Zach, have 2 picks already. Zach, you locked in both your movies. Andrew, you have 1 movie, 1 show. I right now have 1 show. So for my second pick, feels like it's been a while since I picked. 4 things got picked since I've picked. All right, so my third one is between 2 of my favorite characters, and it's a culmination of a bunch of movies leading up to this point. And similar to, this is mine that kind of battles Andrew's Star Wars pick, because they're both on the same side here. They're both friends, they're brothers, teammates, and now they're fighting. But not only are they fighting each other, there's a third party involved, which makes it even more impactful. The fight is Captain America and the Winter Soldier versus Iron Man in Civil War. Oh, I get chills just thinking about it. This is right after when Iron Man found out that Bucky Barnes the Winter Soldier, killed his mom while he was under the influence of what's the name? Yes, Hydra. Sorry. And he threw out all of his morals, and he was going to kill this man. Iron Man was going to kill Bucky. And Captain America can't let anything in the world happen to Bucky. So he's there fighting his friend and teammate. They've bumped heads before, just like brothers would. You know, there's always been a little bit of tension between them two. And now the tension's finally snapped, and they're going head to head. It's 2 versus 1, 3 if you count the shield. Because in that fight, there's the choreography is between all 4 of them, right? The 3 heroes in the shield. Something that I think is super cool about how this was made was that this fight was all choreographed 20 minutes before they filmed because of set changes and stuff like that happened in the movie. What a fantastic fight to be done in a matter of minutes. Like we've done some small little films and stuff, and it takes us forever to come up with things, you know? And they did something to this caliber in that short time. I'm sure they had a lot of it kind of figured out in a different scene, you know, and kind of just moved pieces over. But man, it's great when they're just going blow for blow, back and forth. And is it Friday? Is that Iron Man's at that point? Yeah. He's like, we can't beat these guys in hand-to-hand combat. You know, like...
Such a good moment when he says to analyze his fight pattern, and then she says that it's completed, and he goes, all right, let's kick his ass.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's nice to know that the little guys like us, like, I remember when we were doing, like, our Star Wars fight scene, we were just, like, making it up, like, each, like, part of the fight that same day. It's nice to know that the big dogs are doing the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. So what Zach's referencing is at our job that we all used to work at, we did a
video series together.
A video series, and part of that video series was we did a lightsaber battle between Zach and Andrew. And we kind of had to do it on the cuff because we didn't have a lot of time to plan it. So it's cool to see like the work that we had to put into it and how it was hard and stressful to try to fit everything in and tell a good story, and that a multi-million-dollar production kind of did the same thing. So we're basically on the same level as them, which is cool.
The emotionality in that fight scene, though, was really, really good. When there's 2 big lines from Iron Man that cut deep for me, and it's when Cap says, he's my friend, and he says, so is I.
Yeah.
And then the other one is when he says that he doesn't deserve the shield. My dad made that. You don't deserve it.
And he left it. So, you know what? Man. Take it.
In my opinion, Captain America is right in that movie. I mean, it's Captain America's movie, obviously, but Tony Stark his point of view is not necessarily wrong. I tend to agree with Captain America. Like the government shouldn't be like he has a line where he says, "What if we need to go somewhere and they won't let us?" And the heroes, I think, shouldn't be constricted like that. You know, because all that's going to do is catch them up in the political game of the government. But
are you saying politicians don't know best?
Yeah, well, yeah.
But Tony's focused on the here and now, and we'll have a separate episode for this debate. But Tony's focused on keeping the team together now, and Cap is being dramatic. And if they tell them they can't go somewhere and they go anyway, that can be dealt with at a later date. Cap is destroying their team in that movie, but I digress from that conversation.
Yeah. But in this moment, it's
more about the personal emotional
it's
of his
about
mother.
Killing his mother, yeah, and all that. And like, man, if you found out that someone killed your mom and your best friend knew about it, and like, how would you feel? Like, how would you control that? Because you're one of, if not the most powerful man on the planet, Iron Man. Who's gonna try to stop you? You know, like, it would be so hard to be like, oh, I forgive you, Bucky.
Well, the exciting
like it wasn't your fault.
The other exciting thing about that end fight scene is that it takes our hero of a dozen movies, Iron Man, and turns him into the villain in the third act of the movie. He is now hunting down our protagonist, because the movie is called Captain America Civil War.
Right.
And whether you agree or disagree about who's wrong or right, he's still the antagonist or the villain of this section of the movie. And that's kind of a really interesting role reversal that they got us all on board for as an audience, and also a brilliant move by Zemo.
I love it when movies and shows kind of blur the line a little bit. I feel like that's so realistic, you know?
Well, that movie changes villains like 3 times, and we keep up as an audience very easily because of how well it's done.
I'm just saying, you guys better not do the who's right or wrong episode without me.
All right, looks like we're bringing Zach Cook back. I like it.
But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Like, that movie is arguably the best MCU movie, and that scene is just so like.
We got a lot of debates coming up now.
Yeah, it's just so emotionally charged, and you know, this fight, like in Avengers 2012, there's a scene where Thor and Captain America, Thor and Iron Man fight each other, and those are heroes, but they're not.
They're not emotionally involved.
It's just a fight. This is the first time, I think, really, that we see two of. I mean, those are the flagship characters of the MCU. You know, they're 2 of the biggest characters. I mean, the story's based around them, basically.
Yeah, and I feel like it's so realistic, too, because, like, people of that caliber, right, of power and strength, like, you're bound to disagree with each other at some point. You know, like, I'm glad that they didn't just have them be, like, all peaceful with each other the whole time. And a strength of this fight is that it's in an amazing movie, too. You know, it's the ending of a great movie, but it's also within that whole series of it's so good. I'm excited to have Captain on my team. All right.
We talked enough about it.
It's still my pick.
I don't want the whole. Well, go on to your next one. The whole show doesn't need to be about this pick. It's giving it too much credit.
It's just such a. It's a good movie. Great fight.
I think this one perfectly combats your Duel on Mustafar. Okay, so my third pick, man, I feel like I should have had more backups here, you know? I feel like I didn't have enough planned for this, but all right. My next one is going to be a TV show. Came out in 2021, and I think it kind of redefined animation. I went into this not knowing much about this show at all, and just thinking, oh, well, that kind of looks cool, you know, like the style of the animation stuff just from the trailer. And then I watched the show and was blown away by the story. And the fight that I'm talking about specifically is in Arcane episode 3, the Rescue Vander mission. So Vander's been caught by Silico, and the group is going to basically set him free. And they Powder is the younger sister of Vi, and she was told to, like, stay home. You know, like, don't come to this fight. You kind of mess up everything, you know. And they went and tried to save him on their own. There was the 3 of them. I forget the other 2 guys' names. Do you remember the other 2?
Okay.
I think I have it right here. It'd take me a second to pull it up. But anyways, they go in and try to save him from Silico, and Vi gets there and is fighting on this bridge with pretty much roided up goons, and she has those powered up mitts, you know, and they're not the new ones yet, they're her old ones, and it's so cool, just them going punch for punch as she's throwing these hits. Zach, have you seen this show?
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
You told me to watch it.
Oh my gosh.
Like the first 10 minutes.
Andrew's seen this show.
Yeah.
The 2 friends are named Milo and Clagger.
Yes. So Zach was looking at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yep.
We'll have to show you.
Which just makes this pick that much better because I'm broadening his horizons here. So this fight basically spans across half of the episode. It's like 20 minutes long. And I love, much like Andrew had all this criteria of telling stories and the scenes and all that stuff, this fight moves the story forward. And They have like some cutscenes where they go to other locations and like see other characters like during the midst of this fight, but it's basically 20 minutes of this fight. So they get into this room, Vi and what were the other two guys' names?
Milo and Clagger.
Milo and Clagger get into the room where Vander is, and they're trying to untie him from the chair, and then Vi goes out and starts fighting to try to hold off the guy.
Vi's such a badass.
Yeah, and the other guys, one of them's trying to untie him, and the other one's trying to like break the wall so they can get out once they do untie him. And Vi is versing more than one person, and they're like roided up on this like steroid stuff, and she's holding her own because she's just angry. And then things aren't looking so good. And then Powder, the little sister of Vi, shows up, and she has this little like bomb thing. And for the last 3 episodes, her bomb thing, whenever she uses it, it doesn't work. And then she comes and has her little bomb thing. She winds it up, sets it down. It goes out into the battle area, and it, boom, blows up for the first time in the whole series. And from that point, it kind of sparked a whole new tone to the rest of the show. I don't want to spoil anything. And since Zach hasn't seen it, I don't want to talk too much about the end of this. So I feel like Zach's intentionally holding me back here. But there was at the end of this episode, a big twist that changed the whole directory of the show. And it kind of felt like a season finale, but it was only episode 3 and there was 5 more episodes left. So when I was watching this, I was like, man, what just happened? Because there was, man, why haven't you seen this? There's this part where it's like, that doesn't happen in the middle of a series, you know? And then it happened. So like, how the heck is the story going to continue from this point?
Yeah, it completely alters the course of the characters' lives and the course of the entire story of the show. So it's a very impactful, like, scene.
Yeah, and didn't it kind of feel like a season finale? Like, it's like, all this is happening right now. What about the rest of the show?
It's an epic fight that makes you feel inspired, but also by the end of everything that's happened, you also feel like you could cry. So there's a very high and very low in one section of the show. Also, the animation of that show is really incredible. Yeah,
it's like a combination of CGI elements, and then they like draw and paint over top of it. It looks so cool. And yeah, it was groundbreaking for animation, and I'm excited to have it on my team. So right now we're all, well, I guess I have one more pick, but we're going into the second round here. So I have Daredevil hallway scene, Captain America and Winter Soldier versus Iron Man in Civil War, and then the Arcane rescue Vander mission. Zach has Batman versus Superman in the warehouse, and the Man of Steel, Superman versus Zod. Andrew has Duel Mustafar in the Revenge of the Sith, and Avatar The Last Airbender, Anng versus Ozai. So we go back to Zach. Man, Zach's always picking.
Let's hurry up and get back to my turn already.
Yeah. Going to Zach for your third pick. What you got?
So I've already picked my 2 movies, so I'm going to pick a TV show here. I had never heard about this story before, but there's a lot to it. But I've only seen the first season. I haven't read any of the comics, but I'm talking about Invincible.
Dun, dun, dun. I knew it was going to happen!
My fight is going to be Omni Man versus Invincible, before Omni Man leaves.
That's the best pick.
Yeah, that fight is just so brutal. And what's crazy about that fight is it's not brutal like, oh, Superman, like the fight between Superman and Zod is brutal because they're so powerful. This fight's so brutal, but so emotionally charged because it's not just an enemy, it's his dad, It's his dad, and it's the way the fight ends is just crazy because Omni-Man, I think...
Spoilers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just in case.
They're all spoilers.
Yeah. Which means I should go ahead and spoil mine from Arcane because it kind of holds weight into why it's a good pick, but I won't.
Okay.
Let the man speak.
But, yeah, just the Omni-Man fight. Omni-Man, I think, is kind of a more complex character than you know, you might originally think. Like, you just look at him and somebody might think, oh, that's the villain. But we see Omni Man make a very distinct decision to not kill Mark, his son, and abandon the planet that he was stationed to. And his whole guiding principle is that he's there to conquer that world. And then he fights Invincible and decides that he's gonna abandon his post, which essentially he's a soldier. So it's a big deal for him to not continue to progress that mission that he's been on for years and years.
I think where this fight lacks an even battle, it makes up in that emotional aspect.
Yeah.
You know, because like, and more than makes up, I think. You know, like Invincible doesn't stand a chance.
He does get some hits in, but he does not do anything.
No.
He gets
like
washed.
Yeah, like it's not even a fight. It's kind of just a beat down.
One-sided slaughter.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's the show sets a new tone for what's doable in TV.
The Invincible world is just so interesting.
I can't believe that this was your third pick and you're the one getting it.
Yeah.
That this slipped through both Andrew and myself.
I know.
With how big of fans him and I are.
It is kind of evil of you to take this pick, but I like that you chose it.
I love Invincible. I want to read the stories. I'm just like I said, I'm just so busy, so I haven't gotten a chance to actually read it yet. But when it was coming out, I was so excited to see what was next in the next episode. And like Mark Grayson's such like a charismatic protagonist. I mean, obviously he isn't that smooth with his lady, but you automatically like him,
yeah.
you know, and you're automatically rooting for him. And to see him like beaten down, like his face is like unrecognizable
into a pulp.
And the damage was done by his own dad, you know. So it's just such a crazy, awesome, emotional fight scene, and a crazy cool way to end season 1 with Omni Man leaving. Like, you know,
cliffhanger.
It's just Omni Man is I think more of a complex character, like I said, than just simply he's the villain.
It was a great way to keep everyone who watched the show wanting to come back, even though that the season isn't coming back right away.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone's anticipating this movie or the show, and if that last season or last episode didn't have that cliffhanger, you know, like how excited would everyone be to go see that next season? Because it's been a while.
It has been. I can't wait for season 2.
I know.
Talk about a destructible environment and emotional stakes. You have a father beating his son's head into a mountain so aggressively that the mountain is cracking in half. And we talk about this
This is
in depth too.
Perfect time to plug
Our last
episode 5.
Invincible. Yeah, we covered
Show versus the comics. Go check it out on the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, if you listen this far, follow, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, and come back for more. We'd love to have
And share with your
everyone
friends.
listen. Yeah, share with friends. So
We need people to vote for who has the best roster.
yeah, get
for
your
this.
friends in on that for us. It'd be a huge help. But moving along to me, because I've been waiting for ages.
I have one more quick thing.
I love it. Zach's not taking it.
This fight too. What's one awesome aspect of this fight is it takes place across the whole planet. It's not like they're not just fighting in one city. They fight across like the world.
So you mean
The bottom
it meets Andrew's criteria of a good fight?
Yes.
I think they
To
fight.
say the least.
They fight to the moon, right? And then they fight back to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, he brings them up into space
And to
then
Mount
back down.
Everest.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
And this fight, I don't want to talk up your fight so much, but god dang.
Let's stop it.
Okay, let me just say this real quick. This fight is very, very faithful to the comics. The order of the fight and like the scenes in the fight are basically taken right from the comic book, which I think is a very strong case of why this is good. Now, Zach wouldn't have been able to say that because he hasn't seen the comics. So that point right there is invalid in terms of the audience. Yeah, the audience. But I wanted to say it because I know.
Also, screw you, because I feel like you also simultaneously knocked this off my list of comic fights. So
Yes.
that's a.
You could still pick it as your
I
comic
could,
book
but I'm
fight,
not gonna do
but it won't be as impactful, I don't think.
So Now back to the real star of the show. Let me
Thank you. I don't mind if I...
Let me show you guys how this is done. So I have 2 picks. For my first pick, I don't think either of these are in danger of being stolen, but I'm going to close out my movie category first. This movie was a big part of my childhood. I watched it 1,000 times. I watched it with my grandpa a bunch, who I used to always watch movies with. I would always ask him to fast forward to the heavy action scenes. This movie was transformative for the action genre, and it used new filmmaking techniques to film its action. The fight scene that I'm talking about is Neo versus Agent Smith, which, before I get into it, have you guys seen The Matrix? Zach hasn't.
No.
I have not.
That is embarrassing for you both, but audience, make your vote knowing that neither of them have seen The Matrix. So, this fight scene, basically the plot of the movie involves being woken up from, quote-unquote, The Matrix. So you're woken up from a fake world that humans are kind of in this hibernation state where they're simulating a world for them, and the robots of the future are using humans as batteries. So Neo has been awakened at this point, but at this point in the movie, they're going back into the Matrix and in order to accomplish their mission. And the physical representation of the robots within the Matrix are the agents. Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving, being the main antagonist of the movie. So they show up in the Matrix and defend the integrity of the Matrix. And they do this by fighting off these invaders, people like Neo and Morpheus. Neo being played by Keanu Reeves, Morpheus being played by Lawrence Fishburne, iconically. The end of this movie, Neo isn't really sure who he is. He's going through turmoil of, am I the quote-unquote chosen one? Am I the special person, or am I just a guy? And in this fight, he really accepts his destiny as the chosen one. He accepts himself as Neo. There is this impactful moment towards the end of the fight where Agent Smith is holding him in a chokehold, standing in front of a train. He's going to smash him into this train. And he says, "Goodbye, Mr. Anderson," which was his name in The Matrix. And I get chills every time I watch this. And I remember it takes me nostalgically back to my childhood. He says, "My name is Neo." And he jumps, bashes him into the ceiling of the subway, cracking the cement, does a backflip off of the tracks, and lets him get hit by the train. And it's this huge, impactful moment of him accepting his destiny, him seeing more in himself, him believing he can do the impossible. And they truly see fighting these agents within the Matrix as the impossible, because these agents have the ability to defy the laws of physics, to defy the Matrix. They can dodge bullets, they can move at superhuman speed and punch with superhuman strength. So we have this special effect they use that was created for this movie, and they called it bullet time. So what bullet time does is it allows them to shoot a slow motion scene with the camera moving in real time. So although the action is slow motion, the camera is moving through the sequence as if a cameraman were walking with the ability to move at super speed. So the way they accomplish this is they have a circle of high quality, high speed cameras going around the action, a circle of a bunch of cameras, and they're all shooting. So this enables them to cut the footage together and use special effects to pan a shot around. And they use this at the opening of this fight sequence as Agent Smith and Neo are charging towards each other. They show the bullets go in slow motion and circle around them. And it's just this groundbreaking special effect that looks amazing. They show the bullets in slow motion. It really makes you feel the weight of the scene. And it really they have this highly stylized form of action where they're jumping a bunch of feet or they're punching super hard. The destructible environment is there. They're punching through cement. They're these two heavyweights battling, the chosen one versus the Matrix itself, essentially, in the form of Agent Smith. And the choreography is just so fantastic. We see this action where the hits land so heavy and so fast, and we have this full circle moment where Neo looks at Agent Smith and waves him on into the fight the same way Morpheus did earlier in the movie. So there's just so many connecting moments through the movie itself, for me specifically, to my childhood, and so much special, awesome action. And we get to see the hero bloodied. We get to see him take a ton of hits. He wins this fight, but the way the Matrix works, the Agent Smith just comes right back. So we get to see the hero actually take damage and have an actual fight, and it's just this back and forth. The tide changes like 4 or 5 times in this fight of who's in the lead, who's getting the most hits. So you have this kind of like ebb and flow, it's like I could compare it to like beautiful music being played at a concert, just this rise and fall. Like you have the chorus and then a fall, and it's just with the fight as a microcosm within the movie of a story of a rising action, a climax, and a falling action. And this is to me the pinnacle of fight scenes, and I only have it this far on my list because I was pretty confident you guys hadn't seen the movie and weren't going to pick it. It's worthy of a first pick, but I know you guys don't have much to say for this because, again, they haven't seen The Matrix. So I can just slide right into my next pick. So my next pick, my final TV show pick, I'm leaving comics up to the end. I don't know if you guys are going to do the same. But my next pick was chosen based off a visceral reaction to watching this scene. I was shouting expletives at the screen in excitement when I saw this. And you're looking at me like, you might know what it is, but I don't think you do. I think I'm going to redirect you. So watching this scene, the reason that I'm picking it is based on the criteria of scenes that I watched, got excited to the point of jumping out of my seat, and then immediately rewound it and watched it again because it was that good. And this scene is in The Witcher. It is the Butcher of Blaviken scene from the first episode of The Witcher. I was ecstatic watching this fight scene. I did a bunch of behind the scenes research actually on this scene. I won't talk for too long about it. The scene stands on its own. We have the Witcher caught between 2 entities at this point in the film. Stregobor, who is this powerful wizard who believes in this conspiracy theory about the end of the world, who wants this woman, Renfri, dead. And each of the two, Stregobor and Renfri, want our hero Geralt to kill the other. And he believes in staying out of human affairs because he believes in killing monsters. Because human affairs are just too complicated. He doesn't want to be in this morally indecisive situation. So he wants to stay out of it. He doesn't want to have to kill either of them. But essentially they force his hand of this good moral man to have to kill one of them. Because Renfri takes a woman hostage to try and draw Stregobor into the city of Blaviken. When the Witcher arrives there and there's a trap set for him, he's not planning to let an innocent person die. So his fight with the henchman and his subsequent fight with Renfri are just beautiful, beautifully shot and choreographed. Henry Cavill is doing most, if not all, of these stunts himself, hours on set a day, where he is sweating, swinging around a sword. They filmed this scene with a half sword, which is something they use to then digitally render in the rest of the sword later after they film the scene, to make it easier to move, to make it more believable when he puts it through people. So they have this really cool circular shot where they come behind the man with the crossbow and they draw the shot backwards as he fires it to give you the impending feeling that the arrow's coming right at you as the viewer, right into the camera, and to where you can't see Geralt preparing to block the strike, so you have the feeling that he's going to be hit by this arrow. And then you just see him easily parry it out of the way with his sword like it's nothing. And then moving forward from there, the shot is another shot that's panning backwards, pointing at the Witcher. So you see the villainous henchman jumping into frame from behind the camera. We know this is technically challenging because we've shot things before, and we know that watching a subject while walking backwards, filming the other direction is very difficult. So this was a technically challenging scene. They filmed it as a oneer going straight down the hallway, another aspect that makes it really hard because they had to get all the choreography right. They had to look like all these hits were landing in order for it to land.
But who has the best oneer? This guy.
This
guy right here.
This scene.
I'm sorry. I want to apologize to our audience here that they just had to listen to Andrew talk for 16 minutes straight.
I think the audience is excited to hear about these fight scenes because they're great. But there's an emotional aspect to this fight, great filmmaking techniques. It's a oneer with amazing choreography.
Zach, have you seen this?
Yeah.
I have not.
You haven't seen this?
I haven't seen it.
It's really cool.
It sounds really cool.
Vouch for me.
It sounds cool.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to watch it right after.
Henry Cavill is the man, and he's fully on display in this fight scene with everything that makes him great. His love for source material and doing his own stunts and choosing these amazing characters. I mean,
His wig.
his beautiful girl's wig. He's the man. And this fight scene is so good. I mean, he's cutting off arms and legs, and when he throws the sword like it's a spear and puts it through the guy's chest, I was wailing. I was watching this fight scene in my apartment back in the day, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so hype. And I had to rewind it and just watch it again because it was that good.
All right, that wraps up Andrew's fourth pick. Zach, we're going back to you for your fourth pick. You have both your movies locked down in one show. What you got?
So I'm going to be doing my second show. And this show is a show that I have a lot of time invested in. I've been watching this show since season 1, and it's actually getting ready to end on season 11. I'm talking about The Walking Dead, and there's so many good parts of The Walking Dead, but the fight scene that I'm going to be talking about today is the fight scene where Rick Grimes fights the pervert guy who's trying to molest or rape his son Carl. That fight scene is just really puts on display the ferocity and wildness of Rick Grimes. He will do anything to protect his family and the people that he has come to call family. And the part that stands out the most to me about this fight scene is there's an instance where they're fighting and Rick just bites a chunk of this guy's neck out, which is just it's kind of poetic almost because of the type of show it is. It's a show about zombies, and they do most of the people eating in that show. But in this scene, you kind of get to see Rick Grimes go into a primal protection mode where he is not going to let this guy survive this encounter.
He becomes what he hates in order to do anything it takes to survive, which I think is a defining trait of Rick Grimes, is survival at all costs.
He gets this wild look in his eyes, and he literally bites a chunk of this guy's neck out, and ends up, of course, saving his family. But that was kind of the first time that The Walking Dead, at least in the TV show, really addressed like pedophilia in a post-apocalyptic world, and for it to be, the main character's son, and you get to see the main character get to react to that in a way where there's not really any repercussions. Like, he can kill this guy, and he's not going to go to jail or prison for it, and he can get, his version of justice for that guy attacking his child.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of times in that show where Rick Grimes or any number of people in the cast are completely hopeless and stuck and at the mercy of others, where they're trapped in a bad position. And to me, that is one of the best get-back moments in general across movies and TV shows. I love that scene. It's so, just like you said, animalistic. And the way he delivers the line when there's just one guy left and Rick is just walking towards him with this menacing look on his face, and he says, "He's mine." And he just guts this man with a knife. Like, it is brutal and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love Walking Dead.
This fight's really good in the comics too. It's pretty much.
I was gonna ask, how does it compare?
Yeah, it's a little bit of. I think there's different characters involved because I think Daryl was in that scene in the show, and Daryl doesn't exist in the comics. I think that scene's with Abraham in the comics, and they're out on the road. But it's other than that, it's pretty much the same events unfolding. But it's pretty good in both.
It is brutal, and like I said, primal. You get to see him go primal.
Yeah, the reaction you have to protecting your family and your children in a situation like that is highly emotional aspect of.
And Rick is not Superman. He's not a power. He's just a man, and you get to see just a man like all of us go to that length to protect his family. And it's totally believable. Anybody could be could react to that situation that way, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's just brutal to see him totally take those guys out. So that's my final TV show pick.
Yeah, so that leaves Andrew and Zach both with one left in the comic book pick. I have 2 picks left that I'm going to take right now. I'm torn on my movie pick, so I'm going to jump to the comic pick. I had a feeling that the comic was going to be the kind of wild card last pick for everyone. But at the same time, I knew Andrew and I were probably going to be battling off of the same one comic fight, but I think he's going to go a different route now that, 1, I'm about to take his fight, and 2, Zach took the show. I'm talking about Invincible. I'm going to go with Invincible versus Conquest, one of Andrew's favorite villains of all time, right behind the Joker, as he said in our Invincible episode. So I knew this one would rate high on his list at least. Zach hasn't read this far into the comics, but this is the part where I'm super excited to see come to the show. And I don't know if it'll come to the show in season 2. I think it might be teased in season 2 and then kind of lead into season 3. But I don't want to spoil too much for Zach here because you don't know anything. Have you seen any like YouTube videos about what happens after the season?
I kind of have a vague idea of who Conquest is, and I have a vague idea of another villain that hasn't shown up in the show yet.
Okay.
But I'm pretty not spoiled on Invincible.
Okay, so Conquest is a Viltrumite, which is the same place that Omni Man comes from.
And we've seen him briefly in the show.
Briefly, like when he's explaining his origins, you can see him kind of in the corner of one of the shots, which was super cool, which is why I think he's also going to be teased in season 2, just in a bigger capacity. But he shows up basically to check up on Invincible, because at this time Invincible is the one deemed in charge of weakening Earth. And he comes basically to check up on him. And they end up having a disagreement, and they end up fighting back and forth. This is right after a real hard time for Invincible, so he's at a low point. I don't want to explain how or why for Zach's safety, but he is at a low point. He's very emotional, and if you know anything about Invincible, he kind of wears his emotion on his sleeve and uses that as his driver of his strength. It's kind of, his anger is kind of where his strength comes from. So we see one of the strongest Viltrumites to ever be fighting Invincible when he's at his angriest. And man, I don't want to spoil anything, but Conquest attacks him personally too. So it gave more fuel to the fire. And in the comics, since we're talking about the comic book in particular, there's this one page where Invincible is going back and forth. Invincible has bones broken, and so does Conquest. But there's one panel where in the background of the main image, there's just the same panel going over and over of Invincible slamming his head into Conquest's head. Just boom, boom, boom. And then in the foreground, in front of all of those panels, so it spans across 2 pages, there's him bloody over top of Conquest. And it's one of those, you turn the page and you're like, oh, dang. And you just kind of sit there and look at the page for a few minutes, you know, like there's no words on it. You're just kind of looking at the page and just taking in the art, taking in the impact of the hits, impact of the moment, of all the stuff that happened right before Conquest got here. And it's like, wow. So if you're voting on this, I encourage you just to go look up that page. Just Invincible vs. Conquest, full page panel, and you'll see it. And it doesn't spoil much, but it shows you the brutality of the fight. And I think that's the strength. So definitely go look at that panel before you cast a vote, because it's the best comic choice that there is out there.
We'll see.
We'll see. That wasn't on your list?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it was originally, but I switched it out for Invincible versus Omni Man in the comics, which I'm not going to pick now, like I said.
Because that's what Zach picked. That's what Zach picked on the show. And the movie that I have, it's a toss up for me, but I'm gonna go with Kingsman church fight scene. It's a oneer as well. It's where it's just an unbroken shot. It has a few invisible cuts.
The best ones are.
It's a brutal scene. I think this one kind of rivals Zach's Omni Man versus Invincible in terms of brutality. I think I needed one that had that kind of I think the Daredevil one is kind of brutal, but it's not as gory and like, oh, it didn't have that kind of...
The church fight almost makes you uncomfortable. It's bloody.
So basically what happens is the villain, which is Samuel L. Jackson, with a wisp, and he has this company that has a Sims card that he's marketing to all these people to put into their phones, and everyone ends up buying it and getting it and stuff. And he has a little control that he can turn on and affect everyone's level of aggression. So he's in this church, he turns on his little switch to kind of test it out. And one of the Kingsmen is in there, Harry, right?
Yes.
And so the Sims card not only affects people who have the SIM card on them, but it also affects people near them. So it affects Harry too. And everyone in the church just ends up brutally fighting each other, killing each other. They use a bunch of different weapons. Harry starts off using his gun, and then he moves to an axe. He used to, much like Batman, I think this also rivals your Batman scene, because he's using all these gadgets and stuff, but he's also hand-to-hand fighting, just like your Batman in your movie.
Yeah, it's a high level of creativity. He uses like a lighter as a weapon, a book, a knife, all kinds of things.
He like cuts a staff in half and uses that as like a sphere, and it's a wild scene. And like you said, it kind of makes you uncomfortable. Like, oh, I don't want to watch this. There's this one part, again, man, this one really fights your Batman scene here. And I hope kind of takes the win over your Batman scene, but. He takes a guy and throws him into the desk or whatever that's in the front of the awning, and just scorpions him and cracks his neck, and the guy just like folds in half backwards, which is obviously not normal.
Not what you want.
I can hear the sound. It's brutal. So that wraps up my team, and I picked that scene to kind of battle some of Zach's strong movie picks that he got. He, kind of like you said, is not a superhero too, so I think that's cool that he's just a normal guy. He's got all these gadgets kind of helping him out, and it's a cool scene. So that wraps up my team. So now we go to Zach for his final pick.
So I have not read the most amount of comic books, but I do know that I've read one fight scene that I think is arguably the most iconic fight scene in comic books. And that's going to be from Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns, Batman vs. Superman, and Green Arrow makes a special appearance too.
You bastard.
I'm sorry. That fight scene is just... Was
that on your list?
Yes.
One, they translate it really well in the animated movie. I think that's awesome too, but... it answers the question of, can Batman beat Superman? Can a man beat essentially a god? And Batman, he knows Superman. This is like later in their relationship, so he's studied Superman. He knows his weaknesses and stuff, and how he can get advantages. And tagging in Green Arrow to hit him with a kryptonite gas arrow is a very smart move, and they kind of did a version of that a little bit in Batman vs Superman with the gas grenades that he ends up developing. But it's just such a crazy idea and crazy concept for them to put on the page that Batman, a man, can best a Kryptonian battle.
What comic is this from?
Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Well, time to get on to me.
So yeah, go ahead.
I had both of my comic book picks stolen by Zach because I can't use Invincible versus Omni Man because I would feel like a cheat. I want my list to be diverse from their list. It's important to me. And Batman vs. Superman: The Dark Knight Returns was on my list at my number 2 spot. So my number 3 comic book choice that I still think is a legendary comic book fight is from a comic book I just finished called All-Star Superman. In this story, Superman is attempting to save a scientist named Leo Quintum and his research team that are orbiting the sun, but due to a plan devised by Lex Luthor, a solar flare is initiated that hits Superman, causing him to be supercharged and at his strongest and that we've ever seen him. But also he develops a form of cancer for a Kryptonian where his cells are overly mutated and he's slowly dying. At the end of the story, as Superman's powers start to go away, he's becoming weaker and weaker and more human-like, and he actually essentially dies and talks to his dad in this realm of thought consciousness before coming back to save his friends from Lex Luthor. We see Superman at his absolute lowest, powered down, essentially dead, and then revived. We see him fight Lex Luthor. So I'm talking about Superman versus Lex Luthor. And at this point in the story, Lex Luthor has devised a cocktail that gives him the abilities of Superman for 24 hours. So we're talking about a fight with a role reversal fight, where Lex Luthor is powered up with Superman's abilities, and Superman is now fighting as a human, essentially as Clark Kent. So it's this beautiful irony in this fight. And all throughout the comic, Lex Luthor is complaining about Superman, his ideals of why he hates Superman. Because Superman is unfair to the rest of the world because what he has diminishes everyone else. It diminishes a human accomplishment because he essentially cheats to be strong and cheats to be fast. His evolution is unfair. And we see him now with Superman, all Superman's abilities, fighting a powered down Superman who is now in Lex's shoes. And he really turns Lex Luthor's own words against him. When Lex Luthor says, brawn always loses to brain, he defeats him using his intelligence. So he proves that if the roles were reversed, that he can defeat him in the shoes of a human. What he does is he shoots Lex Luthor with a gravity gun. And because Superman is very intelligent and the son of a scientist, he knows that gravity distorts time. So the increased gravity changes the way time affects Lex Luthor and makes the 24-hour serum run out faster to where he turns into a human again, and Superman is able to win the fight. So there's this emotional aspect of these two characters. They're complete opposites, a dichotomy, a hero given all the gifts of given all the gifts of strength, who uses them for good, and a hero given all the gifts of intelligence and opportunity, who chooses to use it for evil. And it really holds Superman's ideals. It really shows the hypocrisy of Lex Luthor's ideals, and it allows Superman in this really cool fight with cool art where we get to see Lex Luthor flying and with powers. It allows Superman to defeat him. And similar to Zach's case, which I think my comic book here combats his, it allows the human to defeat the god. But my human does not require help from a third party, such as Batman does from Green Arrow.
To be fair, Lex Luthor's not a god. He just temporarily has.
He has
power.
all the powers of Superman, which is Superman's also technically not a god either.
Does he though? Because if he's hit with gravity gun, why can't he just fly to the ground?
What do you mean?
I don't know. You said gravity gun. I haven't read this comic.
Yeah, the gravity gun increases gravity's effect on him, which makes him. It makes it harder for him to do everything he's going to do, so his strength, but it also changes the way gravity affects him.
I was thinking gravity like he was then zero gravity.
Oh, no, the opposite. The reverse. Increased gravity.
I gotcha.
All right, so that wraps up our picks. So all three of our teams are now all locked in. Okay, real quick, we have Daredevil Hallway for me, Winter Soldier and Iron Man, Rescue Vander from Arcane, Invincible versus Conquest, Kingsman Church Fight. Zach, what do you have?
I had Batman in the warehouse scene from Batman vs. Superman. I had Superman versus Zod from Man of Steel. I had Rick Grimes versus the Pervert from The Walking Dead TV show. And I also had Invincible versus Omni Man from the end of season 1 of the Invincible TV show. And for my comic book, I had Batman and Green Arrow versus Superman from The Dark Knight Returns.
Strong picks.
And we'll go in the same order as our snake draft. So I'll say mine, and then I'll do my final remarks rather quickly. So my movies are Anakin versus Obi-Wan and Neo versus Agent Smith. My shows are Anng and Fire Lord Ozai, and then the Butcher of Blaviken scene from The Witcher. And then my comic book is Lex Luthor versus Superman. So I think my list, although it's been altered drastically by the other players' picks, is extremely diverse. My list only has one section that is superpowers, and that is comics. All my other things, they may have abilities, but they are not from superpowers. They are not Marvel and DC. The rest of my list is completely diverse, whereas my counterparts have more Marvel and DC than I do. I'm also the only one here who has seen and read everything on everybody's list. The only one who is studied in all of these fight scenes, so I think my list would probably be the most highly curated since I've seen everything. My picks have the weight of extreme diversity in terms of the length of time that it took to culminate these fight series, the choreography, the emotionality, and the ability of the groundbreaking, iconic achievements in film and media that are incorporated in these stories that we see in terms of new things on the screen that we have never seen before, the grandeur that we felt as an audience, and the rewatchability factor in these scenes. And now I will pass the microphone back to Zach up the order of the snake draft.
Yeah, so I mean, to be fair, we all have some really great choices. But, I mean, I think my list has the most iconic characters. I mean, Batman and Superman are on my list.
Like 3 times.
Yeah, and these are the...
He has 3 DC picks.
Yeah.
And 4 superhero picks.
Hey.
If we're
Don't fix it, you know?
He's not a diverse team, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good team.
Yeah. We also, on my list, have The Walking Dead, which is, a highly revered series.
That does ground your list a little bit. That's a good pick.
Yeah. I like The Walking Dead. Very good stuff. I don't know, but I had some honorable mentions. Are we going to do that later?
We'll do that after.
Okay, sounds good. So, yeah, I mean, great list, guys. But I think if you sit down and you watch your fight scenes and then you watch my fight scenes, or if you watch Aaron's fight scenes and then you watch my fight scenes, mine are going to be the ones that come out on top. So do your homework, and if you haven't seen these fight scenes, you're missing out. These are just incredible fight scenes.
Say that to yourself.
Huh?
So say that to yourself and watch Arcane.
I know.
Yeah,
I promised Aaron I'd watch it like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, when it came out.
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm going to go through mine. I think mine is pretty diverse as well, as I didn't pick as many superheroes, and the superheroes I did pick had different levels of their powers and scale of their fights. I don't want to keep bashing Zach's, but they're all involving a superhero-esque character, or Superman-esque character.
No, we just don't want to be a guest anymore. All we do is bash.
My superhero ones are pretty diverse. At least the Daredevil from Captain America and Iron Man. Daredevil in that particular fight scene. The only advantage he has is that he can kind of see where they're all at, which his opponents can also see in a slightly different way. But it's a relatively grounded scene, and then honestly, so is the Captain America one. The only one that's kind of wild is the Invincible one in the church fight scene. I think I do have a strong, diverse part that you guys didn't have in yours that might kind of push me over the edge a little bit, is that none of you had a female lead in your fight, and I did. So with the Arcane rescue Vander fight with Vi leading the charge.
It's a really good argument. I respect that a lot. I did consider Atomic Blonde, Staircase, and I considered Hit Girl from Kick-Ass, but...
Yeah, but you didn't pick
I
them.
didn't pick. So you...
You sexist son of a gun.
It's a good point. It's a strong point for your list.
I really like the style of how these were shot as well. I think kind of combating Andrew's They're Brothers was my Captain America one. Kind of countering Zach's Dark Knight scene in the warehouse is the Kingsman fight, which I kind of already talked about, where he's using all these different gadgets and being super brutal. However, yeah, I think that's it. And then
When you say countering, I think my list does what your list does, but better. Because you say that the emotionality of them being brothers, but Tony and Kat both have somebody who they're closer with, whereas my pair of brothers, that's kind of like their closest bond in the galaxy. So
that's not a bad point. It's not a bad point.
I mean, I think all these fight scenes are pretty.
They are.
The ones that I've seen, so it's hard for me to bash it, but I think that we all kind of have different aspects of, like, you said that mine are more like Superman-esque, but really like or superhero related. But Batman's a man, you know, and that was 50% of my DC was Batman because I only had
the warehouse scene is just a man fighting other men.
Yeah,
He has super strength. Come on,
the comic book. The comic book is again Batman and Green Arrow. Well, mind you, a one-armed Green Arrow fighting a god. So,
but they're all from the same genre. That's where I'm coming from for your list. Isn't as diverse, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe the person voting is just as big of a superhero nerd
if you
as
like
you.
Batman,
I think we have 3 really strong lists. I respect both of yours. I argue as though mine is obviously the best because I want everyone else to think it's obviously the best. But there are 3 great lists here. We appreciate everyone that took the time to listen to this. We hope that you guys will like, follow, comment, subscribe, and rate the show.
Most importantly, we need all of you to vote on who has the best list. We'll have the list in the show notes on the podcast apps and then also on YouTube. And then in the comments, if you can just go ahead and vote whose list you like the most and want to win. And then in the next time we do one of these drafts, we'll reveal the results and hopefully continue the series because I had a lot of fun. I spent way too much time researching and planning my list. And I know Andrew spent a ton of time too.
Too much.
And then Zach is just a fan who kind of already knows all of this stuff.
So let us know whose list as a whole you thought was your favorite. The whole 5 together. Let us know which one you thought was the best team. And if you feel like it, let us know why you thought it was the best too. I'd be interested to see.
Yeah. All right, that kind of wraps up this episode. Again, thank you for listening and watching. And Zach, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I hope we get to see you more often.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I would definitely love to be back.
All right.
Yeah, watch this episode and like it a whole bunch so that Zach feels good and knows that.
We want him to come back.
Yeah.
Zach, you're the highest rated episode.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right, see ya.